Check. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Welcome to this English lesson. I hope you're ready to learn about this amazing world that we live in. At least that's my view of it. I find the world to be quite amazing. You'll see what the exact topic of the lesson is once we get started. But let me just do my normal audio and video checks. We'll start in 20 seconds, by the way. So far, it seems like everything's working. We'll start in about 10 seconds. Let me just double check one thing. Yeah, I think we're good. Hey, Dave's here. Hi, Dave. 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about this amazing world. I'm not sure what you think of this world we live on, this planet, but I find it to be quite amazing. This lesson will focus mostly on natural things in the world. It's a little bit of a geography lesson. I had to actually do some research for this one. There were a few things where I didn't know exactly why they were called what they were called. You can see in this beautiful picture down here, one of the things I will be talking about. This is a valley. So if you like learning about the world and you like learning English, I think this will be a good lesson for you. I'm pretty excited about it because all of the little video clips I found to teach each word, I think are quite stunning. There's some really beautiful things to see in this lesson. I think you'll enjoy it. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about this amazing world. Hey, before I get started, just want to say hi to Dave. Thanks for coming and moderating the chat. A few regulars here and a few members. I know I see Salma, Maya, Ethan, Noriko, Lolly, Know That, Patana, Wanda Prado, or Wanda is here. Know That, Vitor, Mode Eggs is here. Good to see you, Mode Eggs. Freddie Wolf. Let me scroll back. Hopefully I don't miss anybody. Oh yes, Wanda Prado is here. I wasn't sure which Wanda it was. Noriko. Wait, I think I'm repeating names now. Do you know, in 10 years, if I'm still doing this and I'm really old, it will just be me repeating a whole lot of things over and over again. Hello to Patana, Katerina. Denny Ka is here. Good to see you. Good question asker. That's what I always think when I see your name. Let me just check something, though. I think I forgot to put the link to the lesson. And I think I forgot to hit the record button. So I'm going to do something weird in a moment. Give me a second here to add the link for the question form. And then I'm going to start the lesson again. It's going to sound really weird, but in order to create a nice edited version, I have to do that. So are you ready? This is me restarting the lesson. Here we go. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about this amazing world. I don't know about you, but I think the world is amazing. And in this lesson, I'm going to talk about some of the amazing things. In some ways, it'll be a little bit like a geography lesson. So if you like talking about lakes and cliffs and valleys, this will be a good lesson, not only for you to learn English, but also to learn a little bit about the natural world around us. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about this amazing world. Sorry, can you tell I kind of have that memorized? I do prepare for these lessons a little bit. And if you're just here and wondering why I started the lesson twice, I do take the recording of this lesson to create a smaller version. And I kind of need the intro in order to make that work. So anyways, thanks for sitting through that. I did hit the record button. I did put the link to the question form in the description below again. And I think we are ready to start. At least I hope we are ready to start. Not sure why I'm forgetful this morning. I mentioned to Mode that I had a little bit too much caffeine yesterday. I actually went on a class trip with another class to visit a coffee roaster, and they had a lot of samples. So I had a lot of coffee yesterday, which I don't normally do. And I might seem a little hyper because I think it takes a while for caffeine to work its way out of your system. Anyways, welcome to this lesson. We should get this lesson started. Link is in the description. If you have a question during the lesson, use the link to ask it. I'll pause momentarily as I go through to answer those, but I think you will enjoy this lesson. Here we go. Waterfall. So I put this word first. A waterfall is when a river goes over the edge of a precipice. That's a big word, eh? Or a cliff. So I put this one first because I live close to Niagara Falls, one of the largest waterfalls in the world. So a waterfall is beautiful to watch. When I go to Niagara Falls, I can stand and watch the waterfall for a long time. We would probably use words like mesmerizing. When you watch the water just continually flow over the edge and fall. When you watch the waterfall. When you watch the water fall. Did you know you could use it together, waterfall, or separate? You watch the water fall. Anyways, it's pretty obvious why it's called this. A waterfall is simply a beautiful thing to see. If there's one near you, I suggest you plan to go have a look at it sometime this month or in the future. Always a good experience when you go see a waterfall. Now, a rapids, when you see rapids, it's not a waterfall, but it's certainly water that's moving quickly and usually over rocks and other things. There might be some logs, some fallen trees, there's rocks, and it creates what we call whitewater. So this is what I would call rapids. When the water gets foamy like this, I would call it whitewater. So rapids are found usually in mountainous areas or areas where the water can flow very quickly, either in a river or stream, over and around rocks. One of the most popular things to do is to go kayaking. A lot of people will kayak down a river that has lots of rapids. So rapids would be much smaller than a waterfall, but certainly another form of flowing water. A canyon. So a canyon is typically an area where there are very steep sides, and usually there's a river at the bottom, but it might be dried up at certain times of year. But a canyon is just a beautiful place to go because it's very serene. That's how I would describe it. It's very serene. It's very beautiful to see. In the United States, there's a place called the Grand Canyon. I have never been there, but I would love to go and visit the Grand Canyon. There aren't very many canyons in my part of Canada, but if you go to the Western United States, you'll be able to find something called the Grand Canyon. Fun place to visit, I would assume. So you might be wondering, what's a gorge? Let me say that word again, a gorge. A gorge to me is a smaller type of canyon. A gorge to me is something that you would find close to me. There is actually a few gorges. It's another area where the sides are very, very steep, and a gorge almost always has flowing water at the bottom of it, usually fairly fast flowing water. So near me, there are a few places where you can go see a gorge. There's Elora Gorge, about 2 hours drive from here. Again, gorge, kind of a funny word to say, but a place with very steep sides and flowing water at the bottom. A cliff. So a cliff is where the land ends and then goes almost straight down. As you can see here, if you were to be afraid of heights like I am, you wouldn't necessarily want to walk to the edge of a cliff. I would be afraid to stand at the edge of a cliff because I am afraid of heights. I don't like being in high places, but this is a great example of a very steep cliff. We often describe a cliff as being very steep because it's almost vertical. Definitely a little bit of a scary place to stand. Don't go stand by the edge of a cliff. So a simpler one here, a mountain. A mountain is simply a very, very tall, rocky, I'm trying to think of another word, a tall, rocky outcropping from the earth, maybe. But all of us are aware that if you want to go to one of the highest naturally occurring places in your country, you will want to find one of your country's mountains. I think in Canada, the highest mountain is Mount Logan. I think it's up in the Yukon, up north. We all are probably familiar with Mount Everest. That's another mountain that is very tall. And mountains are places where people are drawn to because some people like the challenge of trying to climb the mountain. They like mountain climbing. Now, a hill is simply a very, very small mountain. Am I allowed to say that? Is that how you would define it? A hill is something as simple as it might take you 4 or 5 steps to get to the top of a hill. It might take you 100 or 200 steps to get to the top of a hill. If a hill is more steps than that, at a certain point, we would start to call it a mountain. And by the way, a mountain doesn't have to just be made of rock. In the earlier parts of the mountain, it will be hilly, and there will be some grass and other things as well, possibly trees. But a hill, I would say, is any mound of dirt big enough that it would take you a few steps to get to the top, or many, many more. We have a hill behind our house, and that's the hill that we use when we go sledding. It's really nice to slide down that hill on a sled. So a valley occurs between 2 hills or between 2 mountains. It's definitely bigger than a gorge, and it's definitely a little more green and habitable. Usually you can live in a valley, not every valley, but when I use the word valley, I'm thinking of something that looks a little more like this. You can see the mountains on each side. You can see that there's a road in the valley. So it's a low area between 2 higher areas. Sometimes the valley will wind a little bit, and valleys are very, very beautiful. We don't have many valleys near me, but I know there are countries like, I think, Switzerland, and other places in the world where there are many, many mountains. And because of that, there are many, many valleys. Very, very fun and enjoyable to go to a valley and see the beautiful view. So a couple flat areas to talk about. A plain is just a very flat area with almost no trees or no trees. In Western Canada, there are plains. So it's just flat areas of land, and there are no hills. There are no mountains. There might be a few trees, but usually not very many trees. It's just a big, huge, flat area. It's a little bit boring, I've heard, to drive across Saskatchewan, the province of Saskatchewan, because it's very flat and the roads are very straight, and there's not a whole lot of variation. No hills, no mountains, barely any trees. And then we have what's called grassland. Grassland is similar to a plain, except that it definitely has grass. So it's basically a plain that has a lot of grass. Grassland is often used for grazing cattle or sheep. There are parts of North America where there is just a lot of plain, and it's mostly grassland, where they have cattle on pasture, we would say. But hey, let's get to some questions here. I haven't done any questions yet. I should do that. I should have a sip of water. Let's see here. Mode wanted to know if, let's see here. Do rapids make a burbling sound? Yes, definitely a great place to go to hear a burbling sound. That would be a great way to describe it. Let's see. Brett made a video at the Grand Canyon. It was breathtaking. You guys should watch that. That's cool. Maybe Dave can dig up the link to that. Modex, do you know Les Gorges du Verdon in France? Oh yeah, cool. Okay, I shouldn't get too distracted. Let's see. Questions. Let's go here. Ruslan. Hi, Ruslan. Hello, dear Teacher Bob. It's so nice to see you, sir. Versus time, what would you like to see more, the Northern Lights or a volcano eruption? So as dangerous as it might be, I would love to see, from a safe distance, an eruption. I have seen the Northern Lights a couple of times as a kid. I was able to see them from here. It's not very common anymore, but I do remember a few times as a kid going outside because my dad or mom said, oh, you can see them tonight. Yarrow is here. Morning, the wisest Teacher Bob. Hope you're doing well. What makes the world so amazing? In my opinion, it's because of kind people have fun on the weekend. So a little change there, on the weekend. I think people do make the world cool, but I am often amazed by the things that occur naturally, which is why you're seeing this lesson today. Like something like a volcano or something like a cliff or a canyon, all of that stuff, it just amazes me. I think it's so, so cool. Let's see here, Jamal. Hi, Bob. Thank you for your efforts. You're welcome. Really, your videos and lessons are very interesting and useful. Would you please specify what time you are live? So I am live at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday. Now, there's been a bit of a hiccup lately because I changed the time a month and a half ago, but also time changed here. We changed our clocks by an hour. But yes, this is the time. And then I'm live every Saturday, the first Saturday of every month. Sorry, I shouldn't have said every Saturday. I'm live the first Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I might have read your question wrong. You might have been asking, what time is it where you live? Where I live right now, it's 7:45. So let me see here. I need a sip of water. Thanks, Dave, for finding that link. So if you see in the chat there, maybe you could open that in a new tab or go find it later. But Brent from Speak English with This Guy did a video at the Grand Canyon. Go have a watch. I'm sure it's really good. I haven't seen it. Maybe I'll watch it later today. Let's see here. That was all the questions. So we're going to jump right back to the lesson. I know I'm a little more in speed mode on Fridays now because I do have to teach in an hour and 5 minutes. I have to teach. So let's keep moving along. Beach. So this is a pretty simple one. You'll notice I've put some words in here that you probably know, and I've put some words in here that maybe are new to you. Beach should be familiar for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a place by a lake or ocean or sea where usually there's lots of sand, although we do have beaches here where it's really, really small rocks or pebbles as well. There's usually waves coming in, and it's a beautiful place to go in the summer. I will say the word again, beach. If you listen, it's beach, beach. So when you see, you know, the little insect called a bee, that's how it starts, beach. You don't want to mispronounce this because if you pronounce, let me give you an example. Right now, I'm going to itch my shoulder here. If I say the word itch, but I start with the letter B instead, that's not a good word to say. And sometimes when people say beach, they say it in a way where it rhymes with itch. Don't say that. It's not a very nice word or kind word. But a beach, a place near the sea or a lake or ocean where there's sand or really small stones and waves, and it's a fun place to go on a summer day. So coast, we also say coastline, is a more general term. A beach is on the coast. The coast refers to the place where water, this hand is water, this is land, where water and land meet. So it can be a rocky coast like in the distance. It can be a beach like in the forefront here. But a coast or coastline, sometimes we say coastline, is the place where, again, a lake, I'm not sure if I would use it for a lake. Let me think about that. When I go to the lake, I go to the water's edge. I think coast is primarily when talking about a sea or ocean, and I'll talk about the difference between those two at the end. I'm clicking, and one sec here. An iceberg. So in the world, there are large chunks of ice or compacted snow, mostly ice, that float in the ocean. These come from either the North Pole or the South Pole or the northern part of the planet or southern part of the planet. I think there's icebergs in the south. But where there is a lot of accumulated ice, definitely in the north, occasionally that ice will fall into the ocean and it will float because ice floats. Actually, that's one of the amazing things about our world. When water freezes, it floats. When you put ice cubes in a cup, they float. Icebergs float in the ocean. They're very dangerous for ships because apparently there's more iceberg underneath the water than there is above the water. But an iceberg is a big chunk of ice floating in the ocean. If you know about the Titanic, the ship that sank many, many years ago, it is because it hit an iceberg. Volcano. So a volcano is a place where lava from underneath the surface of the earth comes to the surface. There's a lot of pressure because of that molten lava. Lava is like melted rock. And when that pressure builds to a certain point, the volcano will erupt and the lava will shoot. Lava and ash, and maybe water vapor or steam, I'm not sure, but definitely lava will erupt from the top of the volcano, and the lava will then flow down the side of the volcano. I would say a volcano looks like a mountain, but it has the potential at the top where there is the, I guess you would call it the crater. This isn't a science lesson, by the way. It has the potential to erupt. And there are two types of volcanoes. There are inactive volcanoes, which haven't erupted for many years. And there are active volcanoes that erupt occasionally still today. The desert. So the desert is usually a place where there is a lot of sand. It's a place where it does not rain very often. And even though there is life in the desert, there's not a lot of life. There aren't a lot of plants, there aren't a lot of animals, and everything that lives in the desert has adapted to that environment. So again, a desert is a place where it does not rain very often. It's a place that's very, very hot during the day, and usually there is a lot of sand. Now, an oasis, let me say that again, an oasis is a place where there is water in the middle of usually a desert. We use oasis to describe other things in life. Sometimes a restaurant will be called an oasis, if they choose that for the name. Bob's Oasis, that would be the name of my restaurant if I started it. But the full definition or real definition is a source of water in the desert which allows some trees and other vegetation to grow. So if you are ever lost in the desert, you hope that you will eventually find an oasis, or more importantly, that you'll find civilization. So an oasis, a place in the desert where maybe it's a lake or pond, or maybe there's water, a spring where water is coming up out of the ground. So glacier, by the way, at the front here, I think you might call that an iceberg, but at the back you have a glacier. So notice how I'm saying it, glacier. I pronounce it with an SH sound, glacier. A glacier can be found near the North or South Pole, but also in mountains. And it's just kind of a slow moving river of ice. That would be my best description. It's definitely not a fast flowing river of water, but it's a lot of ice or compacted snow. By the way, compacted means if you have this much snow and you squish it, it's compacted snow. So it's a river of ice or snow that slowly moves down the side of a mountain or just moves across the land. I've never seen a glacier, but it would be fun. I think you can go on a cruise ship and see icebergs and glaciers in the North Atlantic. Maybe someday I'll do that, although Jen doesn't really like boats, so we'll see. A cave. So a cave is a natural shelter or place in a rocky area. It can be in dirt as well, but normally rock that you can go into. You can go into a cave. If you're lost somewhere and there are caves in the area, at night you could sleep in a cave. You could find a nice cave to sleep in. So it's a place where in the past, for some reason, the rock has moved to create an opening, or maybe water used to flow through and the water has created an opening in the rock. So a cave is a dark place underground where you could explore, or you could even seek shelter if you were lost. A geyser. So I'm not sure if you know what a geyser is, but there are places in the world where water will shoot out of the ground. I think I timed that really, really well. So for some reason, there is water under the ground, under pressure. It might even be hot water. Generally, geysers are in the same places as hot springs, which I'll talk about in a moment. But a geyser is a place where every once in a while, water will just shoot out of the ground. I think there are geysers in the western United States. I think one is called Old Faithful, because the geyser, it goes off like at the same time all the time. Again, not a science lesson, just a lesson for English learners with some pretty videos. And then a hot springs. So hot springs are places where water, hot water, naturally comes out of the ground. And sometimes it's the right temperature for people to enjoy. Sometimes it's too hot, but you probably know of a place in your country where there might be hot springs, and then there might be a spa there or some other thing that you can visit. Hot springs are pretty cool, and definitely a fun source of heat. In fact, I think the oldest business in the world is in Japan, and it's at hot springs. You'll have to look that up. But I think I saw a little video on that earlier this week, a video about the oldest hot springs, or the oldest business in the world. Sorry, I'm getting confused there. A bay. So a bay is a body of water where there's kind of a curve to it. So it's a kind of a natural harbor. A harbor is a safe place for ships to go because it's protected. A bay is a place where, like you can see here, there's the land kind of curves around. A true bay would have land on three sides, but it can also just be an area where the land curves and you end up with part of a lake or the ocean that's a little bit protected from the wind and the waves. So as you can see here in this picture, there is a nice bay. It has a nice beach, it looks like, as well. And it looks like people enjoy visiting here. So again, a bay is any type of part of an ocean or sea or even lake where there's like a curved area along the shore to create a bay. A reef. So a reef is a formation below the water or above, kind of a rocky formation where animals can live and little plants can grow, usually in the ocean. I think the most famous reef is the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia. Again, do your research. This isn't, I keep apologizing because I just keep spewing things off the top of my head as if they are facts. So anyways, a reef is kind of an area in the ocean where there are rocks and coral. I should be more specific. It's made of coral, and it kind of looks like this. It's kind of cool to watch the fish swimming around. By the way, I can watch fish swim for hours. It's very, very enjoyable. A ravine. Now, I should have put ravine with canyon and gorge. Sorry, I should have had it earlier in the lesson. A ravine is very similar to a gorge. In fact, for me, the two words mean the same thing, but I would probably say a gorge is deeper than a ravine. A ravine can be small or large, and it's basically an area like this: steep sloping sides of rock or dirt, and then sometimes water at the bottom, although sometimes the water dries up, so there isn't always water at the bottom of a gorge or ravine, but typically a ravine would be a place like this. Let me say the word one more time for your pronunciation practice. A ravine. I fell in a ravine when I was a kid. I didn't actually fall. I rode my bike down the side and I hit my head. So ravines can be dangerous. So we have a forest and we have a jungle. Both of these are similar in the sense that a forest is a place where there are lots of trees growing naturally. There will be a lot of really old trees, a lot of younger trees. there will be what we call undergrowth, things growing on the ground, small plants, small trees, maybe grasses as well. But a forest is generally found in an area where it's not tropical. Let's just say that way. In my area, there are a lot of forests. We sometimes call it the woods, or we even say the bush. So a bush is a little plant, but a bush can also be like a forest. But a jungle would be similar. It's a lot of trees growing naturally, but it's usually in a tropical area. So there's more vines and other types of plants that like a lot of rain and a lot of heat. So a forest and a jungle are places where simply you would see a lot of trees growing naturally. It's a lot of fun to go for a hike in the forest or in the jungle. It's nice to get out in nature, although you should be careful when hiking in the forest or in a jungle because there might be animals that are dangerous there. So be careful. Hey, I'm going to have a sip of water and I'm going to switch to members only chat mode just for a moment. Give me a minute to set that up. As I'm doing that, I want to say hi to the 334 people who are watching. Thanks for being here. And I do want to say, just give a big thank you to my members. You're awesome. If you don't know what membership is, it's when you decide to join the channel. You get a little lesson plan on Mondays, an extra video on Wednesdays. You get your name in green when you watch a live stream. You can participate in members only chat. And you get a little crown by your name. And I see Mode has this purple crown. Very cool. Okay, let me get some questions on the screen. And I will also answer questions from the chat from my members. Let's get that going. So Natsukashi, teacher, you should come to Argentina and visit Iguazu Waterfall, Perito Moreno Glacier, Mount Fitzroy, Patagonia valleys, our beaches, and try our food. If I start to travel someday, the point of traveling, there will be two reasons for me to travel. One will be to see the natural beauty of the country I'm visiting. And then number two would be, I would probably do a meetup with anyone in that country who wanted to come and say hi. So, but that would be fun. If I do visit Argentina, I will be sure to add those to my list. From Maya, hi Bob, is there any difference between coast and seashore? Thank you. So yes, in a way, coast is a general term. You know, oh, it's down on the coast. He has a house on the coast. If the coast happens to be the coast along a sea, you can call it the seashore. Although if you go to the beach and the beach is on the ocean, you might still call it the seashore. Let me just clarify what I think seashore is. To me, seashore is similar to beach. Okay, when I think seashore, I think it's a beach area with some sand. That's not the exact definition, but that's how I see it. From the chat, Wanda Prado says, hi, Teacher Bob. Can you indicate a movie with an amazing beauty? Thanks a lot. So not a movie, but I don't know if they're doing this in your countries, but here they have started to create documentaries called From Above or An Aerial View. So you can, what they do is they fly a drone in a straight line over a certain area and they create a documentary of that area. They did one, I think, of many parts of Canada. So I love watching those types of documentaries, like Grand Canyon from Above. I'm just making that up, but if there was a documentary called The Grand Canyon from Above or Ontario from Above or An Aerial View, I would watch that. That would be fun. Yaroslav, can we say a sleeping volcano when it's inactive? Yes, you could say it's sleeping. It wouldn't be the official term, but people would say that. Oh, it's sleeping. I hope it doesn't wake up. That would be bad. Mode Eggs. Hi, Hyper Mr. Bob. You mentioned a while ago that you had a substitute for a geography teacher at your school. Now I see why they picked you. Have a sip. Yes, I will have a sip. Yeah, I did sub for a geography class. It was kind of fun because the teacher had a lesson for me to teach, but I just was excited to talk about what they were learning. So Freddie, oh, and I wanted to scroll back because I saw Mode Egg make an earlier comment. Yeah, Bob's Oasis. Sounds great to me. The menu would be all banana-based dishes. I'd give it a 5-star rating. So yes, if I started a restaurant, I would call it Bob's Oasis. Freddie Wolf, Bob, when you told about the Oasis, the word mirage came in my mind. Oh, something just jumped here. Came in my mind when somebody thinks that he found water in the desert, but it's fake. Yes, a mirage is when in the movies, someone's lost in the desert and they don't have enough to drink. And in the distance, they think they see an oasis. But when they get there, it was just an illusion. So a mirage is exactly as Freddie Wolf described it. Yaroslav, recently I watched the video about Ireland. So many different cliffs, mountains, plains, lots of fun. I, in particular, love documentaries about Britain, about England, about Ireland, about Scotland. That whole area of the world I find fascinating, especially the farms and how tidy they are with all the hedgerows. It's very cool. Mode, I hope the effect of caffeine wears off by the end of today. 2 sleepless nights in a row isn't fun. No, it wouldn't be. I do like coffee. I usually drink decaf coffee. And as I mentioned earlier, I went on a field trip yesterday to a place where they roast coffee, and then they gave us a lot of samples at the end. So I drank a lot of coffee yesterday, and I'm still feeling it. Modes, member for 2 years. And yes, it's been 2 years. Thanks for everything. You are welcome, Mode. Thanks for being around that long. That's very, very cool. Let's see here. Freddie the French Wolf. Hi, Bob. Did you ever watch some cycling course like the Tour de France or Tour de France? That's how they say it here, but Tour de France. You'd be able to see quite almost all of the amazing Earth. If not, try it one day. It's beautiful. That's a good point. I've heard when people travel as well that it's nice to go on a trip where you can do some cycling because it's faster than walking, but slow enough that you can appreciate the natural world around you. So yes, I have watched a little bit of the Tour de France, but honestly, it's too long. I know that it's not actually too long. It's too long for me to sit and watch all of it. Let's see here. Joanna says the correct pronunciation of beach. Some people confuse this word with a non-polite word. Yes. And that's why I tried to describe, you go to the beach, you lay on the sand, you catch some rays, you go swimming, you do that at the beach. And then if you use the word itch, but start it with a B, you will be saying something impolite. Let's see here. So Noriko, could you explain the difference between seashore and beach? We generally say beach here because our beaches are on lakes. So I wouldn't describe a beach on a lake as the seashore. If I lived close to a sea or an ocean, I would probably use seashore and beach interchangeably. Yaroslav in the chat says to Wanda, I watched a film directed in Sweden, very beautiful landscapes. Know that, System Mode, congrats on your promotion. The Purple Crown is really glamorous. I can finally say I have as much swag as Lolly Lolly. Oh yes, another long time member. Let's see here. 62 says, hello, mister. How related are marine terms for economic performance? I don't know a lot about the marine industry. I don't know a lot about fishing. I know on the east coast of Canada, fishing used to have used to contribute to Canada's economy quite a bit, but the fish stocks are really low, so it doesn't as much anymore. Natalia. Hi, please say the words dungeon and ingot. I'm not sure if I'm saying ingot correctly. I'm going to check that one. So an ingot is like meaning of ingot. Like when they do iron ore and stuff like that and turn it into steel or iron, they make ingots. Let me see here. Yeah, ingot. But dungeon. It's a tricky one. There's almost too many letters in the word dungeon. So dungeon. Okay, let me see. From the chat, Mode saying thanks. Lolly saying thanks. Yaroslav. When I saw the title of the lesson, the song It's a Man's World came to my mind. Can't get rid of that. I don't know that song. I should look it up later. Mode says, hope to reach that level 2. That would be very cool. Know that. Very cool if you attained that level. Okay, let me have a sip of water. I'm done questions. I'm going to turn off members only chat and get back to the lesson. Let me just check where we are. Yeah, we are moving along right. We're right on pace to finish on time. Let's see here. Click there. Back here. Back to slides. Thanks for being members, by the way. Let me just go back to the chat. Mode says, okay, back to English. What's the difference between an embankment and a levee? Which one would you use to describe those on both sides of a gorge? So to me, embankments and levees are generally things made by people. They can occur naturally, but in my English conversations, I would talk about a levee as, a huge, we also use the word berm. So it's just a whole lot of dirt put in a certain place to stop water from going past. It can be other things as well. And an embankment is also something man-made, we would say. Along the edge of the road, they might put an embankment or berm. Look up the word berm because we use that word a lot as well. Okay, back to the lesson. Here we go. I have clicked the wrong button again. Island. So I'm going to finish the lesson with a few really easy ones. I put the easy ones at the end, the ones you would probably know. An island is simply a piece of land surrounded by water. It can be any size. This is a small island. I believe that even you would consider Japan an island. So it's it's a piece of land completely surrounded by water. If you're rich, you can buy a private island. In the Caribbean, there are many people who, there are people who own private islands. That means that they own the entire island. I do not own a private island. I will never own a private island. That is for the ultra wealthy in the world. A peninsula, though, let me say that again, peninsula. A peninsula is an area where it's still connected to a bigger land mass, but it's surrounded by water on most sides except for one. So the simplest description would be a peninsula has water on 3 sides, or a peninsula has water on most sides, but it's still connected. So it's not an island. It's not completely surrounded by water, but it's surrounded by quite a bit of water. I actually live on a peninsula. I know this is going to sound kind of funny, but I live in the Niagara Peninsula. I don't live near an ocean, but I live near the Great Lakes. There is a lake to the south of me. There is a lake to the north of me. Lake Erie is to the south of me. Lake Ontario is to the north of me. And to the east of me, there is a river. So it's not a true peninsula, but it's called the Niagara Peninsula. A creek, sometimes called a stream or a brook. We have many names for small, tiny rivers, okay? If I saw this, I would call it a stream. It's a general term for a small amount of flowing water. I think a brook is smaller than a creek. Brooks, by the way, babble, a babbling brook. But a creek would be anything like this. A place where there is a little bit of water flowing. It's not very deep. If it was a small brook, you could probably walk through it and just your feet would get wet. A creek, you might get wet up to your knees. But a creek is just a place where there's a small amount of flowing water. There's a creek down the hill behind my house, and there's a river by my house. Oh, did you know that? You've seen the river, but I should someday make a little video down by the creek. There's also a creek behind my house. So a river then is one of the most common forms of flowing water. Rivers are in every country of the world. I live on a river. We use the word river instead of stream when it becomes much deeper and much wider. So I don't know exactly when you decide to call something a river instead of a creek, but generally if the water is up to your waist and it would take you a little bit of time to swim across, we would probably call it a river. So a large flowing amount of water. And then a lake. Now, this maybe isn't the best video to show this because I think there's a river at the end, but a lake is simply a large body of fresh water. So a couple things I just said there. We often talk about water and use the word body, a body of water. So a lake is a body of water. An ocean is a body of water. A lake is usually, though, made of fresh water. There's no salt, or the salt content is very low. In Canada, we have many, many freshwater lakes. And so the water is drinkable. It should go through a water treatment plant, but a lake would be a large body of fresh water. A sea, then, is usually a large body of water near land. So it's usually off the coast. We have things like the Mediterranean Sea. It can be salt water. It might be a mixture of the two, right? When you have a sea, it might have a lot of freshwater rivers flowing into it. But a lot of times people ask, what's the difference between the sea and the ocean? So it's simply size and how close it is to land, or how it was named. That's really what it comes down to. So a sea is usually located close to land relatively. And then we use ocean to describe our bigger bodies of water, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and those kinds of things. So bodies of water. Not sure why we use the word body, but we do. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to check if there are a few more questions. Just give me a moment. There are no more questions, so it's only been 45 minutes. Sorry about that, but we are going to wrap this lesson up so that Bob the Canadian can go to work and be on time. As I mentioned, quite rapidly, I will be in a classroom teaching. So anyways, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for learning a little bit about this amazing world. I have really started to like the video clips instead of pictures. I hope it doesn't cause motion sickness or anything like that. So you'll probably see, for the next few weeks at least, most lessons will have a video component. I just think it makes it more interesting to watch. And it's not just interesting to watch. The video should be more engaging and help you remember the word. I really hope it has a positive effect on how well you remember it. Let me say bye to a few people and then we'll wrap this up. Dave says, see you next week. See you next week, Dave. Thanks for helping out. Paco-san is here. Bye, Mode Eggs. Bye, Paco-san. Bye, Lolly Lolly. Wanda Prado. Know that. Bara Vilson is here. Also another longtime viewer, by the way, Bara Vilson, since almost the beginning. Let's see here. Olinda Portillo. I'm just saying bye to people. Mode says, have a great day teaching. Learn English with Bob the Canadian. Thanks a lot for this amazing lesson. No problem. Samuel Chen is here. Hi, Samuel. Good to see you again. Bye to Yaroslav. Bye to Samuel. Irina, also a great question asker on the other channel. Good to see you, Irina. Noriko, good to see you too. Know that. Freddie Wolf, Taris, bye to all of you. Bye to Maya. Vitor, good to see you here. Bye to Unsel, I think is here. I'm not sure if Ario is here this morning. Haven't seen him, but if he is, bye to Ario and Natalia. Marin, no user. Suresh, know that. Pedro, Noriko, Mode Eggs. Mode's learning a lot more French. It's cool. Bye to Michael, Weil, Yaroslav. I'm saying names twice, so I'm just going to get going. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. New lesson coming out Tuesday. And by the way, this lesson will come out in a shorter version in a couple days. Do watch it. And next Friday, there will be a live stream. And next Saturday is April 1st. There will be a live stream. That's not an April Fool's joke. Next week, Saturday, there will be a live stream. Not tomorrow, next week, Saturday. So in 8 days, there will be a live stream as well. Anyways, have a good day, everyone. I'm rambling on now. I'm going to get going. Bye. This is the point where I yell to everyone else in the house that I'm done, but I'm going to hit the end button first before I do that.